Good morning on a Resurrection Sunday 2020. I want to take you through three shortish videos about the resurrection and the implications of the resurrection. Before I do those 3 points though, in 3 videos, this first video will have the first point. I just want to read Psalm 16 in which the resurrection of Christ was prophesied. So Psalm 16. Preserve me, O God, for in you I take refuge. I say to the Lord, you are my Lord. I have no good apart from you. As for the saints in the land, they are the excellent ones, in whom is all my delight. The sorrows of those who run after another God shall multiply. Their drink offerings of blood I will not pour out, or take their names on my lips. The Lord is my chosen portion, and my cup. You hold my lot. The lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful inheritance. I bless the Lord who gives me counsel. In the night also my heart instructs me. I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be shaken. Therefore my heart is glad, and my whole being rejoices. My flesh also dwells secure. For you will not abandon my soul to Sheol, or let your Holy One see corruption. You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. So the highlighted portion here is what I briefly want to focus on. When we picture Jesus himself saying this, then we understand that this is a prophecy of the resurrection written in the book of the Psalms, Psalm number 16 of the Old Testament, well and truly written before Christ ever walked the earth. So let me read it to you one more time. Imagine Jesus saying this before he reaches the cross. Imagine him thinking it. This is his faith, if you like. For you will not abandon my soul to Sheol, Sheol being the grave, or let your Holy One see corruption. That means if he was to die, and we know he did, he would not be left to decay and be eaten by worms in the ground, that he would be raised up. He would not be abandoned in that state, and he would not see corruption. Instead, he would see life. So there are a vast number of Old Testament pictures of the resurrection. You can go hunting for a bunch of them if you like. One of the famous ones is Abraham sacrificing his son Isaac, and at the last moment Isaac doesn't have to die, that God provides for himself a lamb so that it serves a dual purpose, 2 purposes. One in demonstrating the resurrection of the son of Abraham in a kind of almost a playing out like a Shakespearean thing, where the symbol of Isaac not having to be sacrificed is representative of Christ being sacrificed. But the other side of it, the dual part, is God will provide for himself a lamb, is what it says in that passage. And God did provide for himself a lamb to an offering for our sin in the cross of Jesus. And now, it was prophesied in the Old Testament that this would be the role of the Messiah, to take the punishment for sin. And if you saw the previous video on Isaiah chapter 52 and 53, you can hear a bit more about that prophesied. The fulfillment of that is seen in a number of places. Let me just briefly read to you a little bit from Psalm, just one line. This is Psalm number 2. Talks of God the Father saying here in verse 7, I will tell of the decree the Lord said to me, you are my son, today I have begotten you. So this is Jesus telling of the Father's decree, where he declares Jesus to be the Son that he has begotten. You are my son, today I have begotten you. It's a declaration of the sonship of the Messiah in Psalm number 2. If we go to Romans in the New Testament, this is after the events of the cross and Jesus has risen again. we have the Apostle Paul writing to the Christians in Rome, and he writes this about the resurrection. He says, Jesus was declared to be the Son of God, just as we read, declared to be the Son of God in Psalm 2. But this time he's declared to be the Son of God in power, according to the Spirit of holiness. How? How was he declared to be the Son of God? By his resurrection from the dead. Jesus Christ our Lord. So Jesus is shown to be the Son of God, which is this messianic title to show that he is indeed the Messiah. How do we know he's the Messiah? By the resurrection from the dead. So that's our first main thing that I wanted to share with you. First thing, that Jesus is declared in the resurrection to be the Son of God, to be the Messiah by the resurrection. The next two, we're going to take a look at what it would mean if Jesus did not rise from the dead. And then we're going to take a look at, and that's in 1 Corinthians 15, and then we're going to take a look at Romans 6 and the implication for the Christian of what it means for the resurrection to be united with Christ. But we will leave that first video there and keep it short and snappy.